If it's bull or bear, I don't care. It's quite a rough ride, just like life. But I'm kind of patient, 'cause only time will tell. It's gonna go up, so you better stay calm. And crow your coins, you gotta crow your coins. Crow your coins, crow your coins. Crow your coins, you gotta crow your coins. Crow your coins, crow your coins. Crow your coins, you gotta crow your coins. Crow your coins, crow your coins. Crow your coins, you gotta crow your coins.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen? We are live. It is about 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and I am here with somebody who, now this is going to be awkward as hell, folks. I already told him, because he prefers to be, basically, he doesn't want everybody bugging him. So, and I told him, I said, look, I get it. You know, when at the height of the market, I was getting just text messages, phone calls, emails, all my social media accounts were blowing up like crazy. I mean, it was just nonstop, hundreds of messages a day. And he's like, dude, he's like, I work another job. I just can't have that. He's like, it's best if I just do what I do, share my information with everybody, and just keep my face out of it. So it's going to be awkward because I'm going to be talking to a wall. But we're going to make it work anyway, because I think this guy is sharp. And I told everybody, look, I went out, I was kind of browsing around the internet, and I found this guy doing these crazy ass technical analysis videos, unlike anything I had seen before. It looked like, you know, when you were a kid and you get those little kits at a garage sale for $2, and they come with these little stencils, and you stick a pencil in it, and you just start drawing circles, and it creates this whole pattern of life. That's kind of what this guy's technical analysis looks like, but somehow it all adds up and makes sense. So OpticalArtDotCom is here. Welcome.
Well, thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Hopefully everybody can hear you. I think I can hear you loud and clear. I just want to make sure if those in chat, just give me a yes.
Mic check. Can you hear me?
And we're just calling you Steve, right? Like,
yeah, Steve's fine.
Steve is fine. It's probably a bullshit name, so we'll just call him whatever the hell we want as this video goes on.
I will tell you my real name is Steve.
Okay, his real name is Steve.
That is my name.
Well, it's a good thing that's not an overly common name or anything, Steve. No, I'm just kidding. All right, so letting everybody pop into chat. I hear you guys loud and clear. Good deal. Yes, good audio, loud and clear. All right, here we go. Here we go. I will make a brief announcement real quick to everyone out there. Crow Trader Beta version 5 has launched today. So if you've already got a license to Crow Trader and you've been using version 4, go to CrowTrader.com right now, download version 5 right there from the homepage, and start using that. It has fixed so many bugs and so many issues that we were having with version 4. That I will say the first true real live version 1 is getting close to dropping. And when it does, it's going to not just have CoinBase Pro, but it's also going to have Binance once again. And hopefully my own special indicator that I've been alluding to for a while now. And so is LBRY in the Telegram chat. So I'm getting super pumped if you haven't noticed, because I've been working on the site. I've been putting some stuff out and about, different little ads and things everywhere. So we're definitely getting ramped up for Crow Trader. But the question is, why are we going to use Crow Trader? Like, how is that going to benefit anybody right now when the market is seemingly tanking? And how low will it go? So Steve is going to help us kind of get an understanding from his perspective. Now, keep in mind, this isn't financial advice. Neither of us are licensed financial advisors. So everything that you're going to see is basically just opinion with kind of an interpretation of the lines and the stars. Let's call it astrology of crypto, if you will. But Steve, if you want to share a screen and just kind of give us an idea initially, let's just take a quick look at where are we at now? Because I'm seeing all kinds of craziness now, because I know we didn't break above a very particular point in resistance, and so we've fallen back down. I think we're sitting somewhere around $7,000 once again, and some people are calling a $1,500 low. What the hell is that about? What can you tell us based off of what you see?
Well, first of all, if I could point out one thing, let me pull this screen down. I would like to point out to everybody that something major is going to happen pretty soon, and this chart right here, and I've shown this in previous videos that, and I'll show you the power of these rings, but you can see this orange ring up here is resistance, and this is support. And you can see that we came below this and we found resistance on this ring. And you can see that this goes all the way back to what, 26th of October. And we're moving down this. We came underneath, found resistance, then we fell down below. Something's going to happen when we hit this ring right here. And this is on the 30-minute, and we are only 7.5 hours before we hit this ring. So I expect something major to happen. Now, we're either going to have a pump or we're going to have a dump, but because this ring has played such a role previously, when we hit this ring, we're going to get a major pivot, either to the upside or the downside.
First question I have, what the hell is that ring and why is it so important? And what about that ring dictates whether anything big happens? Like in
previous price action.
Okay.
See how price, every time it came up, it hit this ring and got rejected. Now, I created this chart back when price was here, and I put a video up when price was here. And I told people in that video, I said, watch, people are going to start saying we're in a falling wedge. And this was days before. And then a few days later, a couple days later, people said, hey, we're in a falling wedge. We may be in a falling wedge. We are in a falling wedge. I told my subscribers, we are in a falling wedge. We're going to be bouncing back and forth between these rings until we get to the apex. Now, this is a falling wedge. I thought it would break to the upside. So I was telling people, I expect us to break up. You can see, obviously, we broke down. And then I told people, because we were finding resistance under this ring, chances are we were coming down. That's what happened. But again, and I can show you how I set up these rings.
Yeah, let's do that, because I would love to, like, even for my own selfish reasons, I want to basically be able to recreate this catastrophic mess of lines and colors for myself. So
well, that would probably take a few hours, but I do have a chart specifically set up just to kind of give you an idea and show you. Let me put this chart up on the screen for you. I'm gonna go back and forth between these charts. All right, so this is going to show you the power of fib channels, and again, I've got this earbud in my ear, and I'm holding it with my hand. I need to get some duct tape and tape this thing around my head. All right, so this is a chart that I'm starting for. I'm going to create a Bitcoin chart for each exchange. I'm updating the Bitstamp chart right now. So there is a method I use to create the first fib channel. You have to make sure that you follow certain trend lines to set it up. But once you get this set up correctly, so right now we're in the 4 hours. So I'm just going to show you something that's just to show you how accurate this is. And what the great thing about this, when you set these charts up, you get them set up correctly, you can see that you've got this grid set up, right? So if to say your current price action's obviously in this grid right here. So if I go under fib channel and I start right here, come up to this point, then I bring it down to this point. Now I'm going to create another fib channel going the other way and come down here. Now watch what happens when I zoom in on the 1 hour here. Look at how well price is respecting each one of these lines in this channel. So you can basically map out your targets to the upside. You can see we came up, it got rejected. So you're working with multiple channels at the same time. You came down here, you found support. You moved back up here, you found support on this one, you found resistance. You wicked all the way up here, but then came back down and found resistance on this line. We were finding support, now we're finding resistance. And then you can even zoom in further, and then you could create a fib channel within this and go down to the 5 minute and get even more precise targets. So that's just one way that this works for actually charting to find out where potential support and resistance lines are. But the great thing about charting this way, and you'll notice I have these white lines here, And the reason I put these white lines is, and now this is what happens. So used to what I would do when I would create a fib circle, I would have a trend line, and I would start on this trend line, and I would move it along, and then try to adjust it to get to fit price action. That's a little tougher to do, and it's hard to get it exact. But with this method, once you have this fib channel set up correctly, this grid, once you create a fib circle and you go from one point to another point, it has to be to an exact point, and intersecting points on the, or intersecting lines on the grid. When you go from one point to another point, watch how accurate. If I go down to the 30-minute, look how accurate this fib circle is. So right down here, you can see we came up, we found resistance on this one. You found resistance here. Perfect resistance, support. I can go back further. Perfect support on this. Support.
But look at, so stop right there. So when I'm looking at that right there, you're saying perfect support. Well, what I see is a line drawn through the middle of a whole bunch of up and down. And anywhere that line could be potentially placed within that chart, it could be the same. So like what dictates how it's accurate? Here's I guess my point. Like when I see this and I'm thinking, sure, okay, that looks fine. But in a market that is so driven by manipulation and whale trading, you know, pushing out shorts, you know, squeezing out longs, whatever you say, there's so much intentional market driven stuff. It's like, to me, it just doesn't feel like a natural market, right? So because of that, how can you, like, if, I guess what I'm trying to find, and this has been my biggest struggle in technical analysis, is I've learned so many different indicators. I've learned so many different things, but my problem is putting my faith in a bunch of lines, regardless of how much they make sense, because I know there's always somebody out there with a significant sum of Bitcoin waiting to screw me, right?
Oh, okay. So let me give you a, for instance, since I get what you're saying. So let me show you this. There were some other rings there, but maybe this will clear it up for you. So I put this out. I published this chart on, by the way, I'm Snooker on TradingView. So I published this chart on June 24th, right? You can see price action was right here. And we were finding resistance at this ring. I was telling people, and I was calling for this back in May. I said that this was a complete suckers rally. This run up was complete manipulation. And I told people, you know, and I got a lot of flack for this because I thought at this point we would continue sideways and hit this ring and then start coming down. But we kept pressing up higher and higher. But I told people, regardless, I said, when we hit this ring, and I knew this because I'd set this ring up, I came from this point to this point. You can see this chop matched it. This price action respects this ring perfectly. But either way, I told people, I said, when we get to this ring, we're going to start capitulating and coming down. And if I hit play, you can see exactly what happened. Ever since we passed that ring, we've been coming down. And we've already come down, I think, you know, close to 50%. So people that have been following me knew, and I did a live stream, you know, when we got to this point. So people knew that followed me, and I had faith in this ring. I knew when we'd hit this ring, we'd come down. And this is proof right here. And this was way, way ahead of, you know, in May, I was calling for when we hit this ring, it'd come down. And that's exactly what happened. Another example I can give you, let me, again, I got a lot of screens up here. So let me show you this one. This was a chart I published on, this was November 6th. And I was using, and this is what I was telling you, you look for rings that played a role previously so you get an idea what price action does. When we crossed this ring right here, and this is part of the same fib circle, as soon as we crossed this ring, we had a drop. This ring didn't play much of a role, but I always say whenever a previous ring in a fib circle plays a role, always pay attention to the next one.
So where do you learn that? Where did you pick
I taught
that
myself.
up?
I taught myself. I got into Bitcoin. Well, actually, I was trading Bitcoin Cash at the time. And I was mining Ethereum, Zcash, all of that. And then, you know, I decided, you know, it started getting less profitable. So I was doing research, finding other coins to be more profitable. And then I found out about TradingView, watching some people's technical analysis. So I got on TradingView. First thing I found was pitchforks. Then I found fib circles, and then I found fib channels, and using fib channels with fib circles, I mean, it is unbelievable what you can find. But when I hit play, you can see what happened. As soon as we crossed this ring, we started coming down. Now, granted, we were at resistance, so it was obvious we'd come down at some point. But the thing is, these rings not only give you support and resistance, they give you timing. Just like you saw in that previous chart I showed you, when we hit that ring, we started capitulating. Just like when we hit this ring, we came down. As soon as we hit this ring, because people could think, oh, we're going to continue to move sideways and sideways. But when we crossed this ring, that started the downtrend and start bringing us down. So it's how you set the rings up. It's how you chart from the beginning that dictates whether these rings will be accurate.
This is quite impressive. I'm like dumbfounded, honestly. I think my see, my problem is if I can't learn it in a damn book, I'm probably not going to pick it up. I need to have something I can reference constantly. Like, so it's obvious, like you put these charts out on TradingView and you've called some pretty significant things. But you say, you know, I put these rings, so let's, if you will, this is what I think will help me and help other people that are watching, because I know you're being exposed to a lot of new people, I'm sure. Can you take a clean chart and like do, like, I don't know, do whatever the hell voodoo you do, but explain why you're doing it where, and then can we take a look at, we don't even need to look at like 2021 or any of that right now, but I'm curious, you know, we're at 7,000. Where do things line up on a fairly clean chart? Like if I were coming to a chart right now and I wanted to kind of gauge and get a really good understanding as to where we're at and what is more likely short and medium term, can we do something like that, or do we have to have everything already?
How about I do a chart and I'll give you some big targets to the upside and the downside, and I'll do it from scratch. How about that?
Yeah, that'd be great.
All right.
I just really want to wrap my head around your head when you, well, that didn't sound good. I want to wrap my head around your thought process when you're trying to kind of establish, like, where does this start, right? That's kind of what it's like. You've got stuff that looks like it started way back. So as a newcomer, I don't even know, I wouldn't even know where to begin to start outlaying a lot of these things.
Well, and again, I would love to chart from scratch and show you, but I do have a premium content where if people want to watch me chart from scratch, that's something that, you know, I don't want to give away all my secrets. I don't mind giving people access to the charts, but I can show you with this chart. Let me get rid of this right here. So, and this is one of the first charts I created. And this is, I told you I started out with pitchforks. So
those yellow lines, those are the halving dates, right?
That's correct.
How the hell do you, I've never been able to figure out how to post those in my TradingView.
You mean the lines?
Yeah.
Yeah, you just go over here and you go vertical line and bam, you got one.
Alrighty then. Beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah. So, and this is one of the first charts I created, and my followers, you know, this, I always go over this chart, and it's really simple to set up. So, and again, when I started out, the first thing I did, and actually there's a video I put out, it's probably one of the first videos I put out. I actually was using Photoshop to do my technical analysis. And actually, I predicted the drop from 6K to 3K a couple weeks before it happened. You know, but I was comparing, you know, the previous bear market with the current bear market, which made sense that we would come down. And again, that was one of my first videos I put out. It was a long, long time ago. But again, so I started out using pitchforks. So in this, still, you can use this to find your targets, and I can show you how this works. So I did a shift pitchfork, kind of like I did with the fib channel on the peak of the bull run. So I came down, you go from the peak, you go to the bottom, and you go to the top. And you can see, and, you know, if you just move this in the slightest, it can kind of change, you know, the angle of this. But let me make this white. And let's make this center one bright so it's easy to see. So, and this is what I was talking about when you're comparing previous bear markets to the current bear, well, I'm saying we're still in a bear market right now. But what you can see is price jumped from line. We got resistance. We came up, we found resistance on this line. We found support, perfect resistance on this line, came back up. We capitulated from this line 3 times here, right here, and we capitulated again right here. So your target, and I told people this, in countless videos, I said, when we break support, your next target is this line below. It's at an angle. So if you hit it here, it would have been 6,700. You hit it here, which we did, with 7,414. And you see how, hold on. So this line right here, right? This was our support, this line going back. We're below this now. So we're going to continue down. It's possible we could do like we did here. We could come down and move up a bit and then come down. But your next ultimate target, because you see it respects each one of these lines in this pitchfork. So your next major target for a drop, if we have a fast drop, your first target is around 6,000. And, if it takes a little longer, your target's going to be, this is at an angle going up. So it'd be 6,189. But this is, and again, when I created my capitulation ring, I do a fib circle here. I just went from the peak and came down here to where we capitulated. And you can see that gave me this ring right here where we had our capitulation. That's the one that had that published chart.
That's exactly what I was asking for. Perfect.
So, and this is what I'm saying is that this ring right here played a role. Now this is a ring further out. We're only about 7 hours away from a ring. I'm saying we're potentially going to have a pump or a dump. So I need to keep paying attention to that. But if this ring played a role like it did here, and you can see how well price is respecting it back here, every time you hit a ring in the same fib circle that previously played a role, you can expect something to happen. So this, the distance to that ring right there at current price action is 42 days away. So, we could already be down here. We're going to hit it sooner, but this ring will play a role. So that's how I created charts originally using fib channels. With pitchforks. And if I was going to do, back when I was doing fib circles, I would take a trend line and I would follow up the trend line and try to match price action. And doing that, you can find some confluence, but it's a lot harder to match it up. And when I started using fib channels, like I said, there's no limit to the number of fib circles you can have. And the great thing about fib circles is you can actually get an idea of where price is going. You can tell when you come down, you can find support and potentially get a pivot.
Have you ever done these? Have you ever done any of this excluding weekend trading?
The CME futures, with the gaps and all that. Yeah. I created a chart for the futures for Bitcoin.
Do you find it more or less accurate overall in terms of predicting up or down?
I think the main thing with that is for gaps, because I think, if there's a gap, you can expect that to be filled, and you can get an idea if price might go back or up, if it'll go up or down. Because usually those gaps do get filled. Are you familiar with those gaps?
Yeah, I am. I know that I did something. I think I did a logarithmic chart once that excluded, basically Saturday and Sunday trading activity, and trying to gauge how accurate it was, overall. And if I remember, it's been a while, but if I remember correctly, it was pretty accurate in terms of what was actually going on. And the thing of it is that it's so difficult because, being in the US, or the Eastern time zone, you're looking at one chart, you go to bed, you come back, and it can be totally different depending on what Asia did with it. And it's just like this back and forth ping pong match that we have going on with price action oftentimes. And so it's, and then you've got a 7 day, 7 days a week worth of trading opportunity. So that further, kind of complicates things in my eyes. That's how you start at Crow. Long at 5G to 18K. Don't forget, people, he's self-taught, so he's totally earned my respect. That's cool.
Well, thank you, guys.
I'm just reading through, trying to see if there are any questions or anything that people don't understand. No disrespect, Connor, but I am self-taught at being a mother of 3 kids. I don't charge people who ask for advice. Oh, now, here's the thing. As far as that is concerned, everybody needs to make a living. And you know, I'll tell you right now, if I don't want anybody like kind of frowning on charging for some of this stuff, because to be quite frank with you, if I were as well versed and I were spending hours and hours and hours charting all of this stuff, you'd bet your ass I'm going to have a VIP group. But I would only do it if it was something people could truly profit from. So, you know, it's like my trading bot. You know what I mean? Like, you put in hours and hours, you know, working on and getting all the resources together to establish a trading bot for people to make money with. Well, then that has value. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. So yeah, I it's okay, Natasha. I think it's actually pretty cool. And I looked, and I don't think you're charging an asinine amount of money for anything. It's not. Some of these guys
like
are charging
four or
like
5 cups of coffee for access to all of my charts.
Yeah,
that's not too outrageous, I don't think.
Yeah,
and it can help you. You know, a lot of people said they have saved money. It kept them from FOMOing in, and you know, it gives you potential targets and potential pivot points.
Yeah, I think it's cool, and I don't think what you're charging is very unrealistic at all. I even thought about joining it just out of curiosity, and if I'm willing to do that, I'm kind of cheap when it comes to a lot of this stuff because I feel like everything's bullshit.
Well, I have a special. So I have special 2 for 1, so it only costs you, you know, well, it'd be the same amount of cup of coffee, but you get 2 months.
There you go.
Yeah, but I know you had some questions. So did you have some questions about when I did the peak of the next bull run?
Yeah, so I'm curious. Well, so the peak of the next bull. So I've done things from more of a fundamental perspective. You know, I've done videos in the past where I have a video where I had talked about a $280,000 Bitcoin, right? But in reality, it was like I named it $280,000 because if I named it what I really saw it at, people would have thought I was nuts, and they still kind of did. But like it ended up being like $1.3 million Bitcoin. And what I did was I took 5% of the global pension funds and I put it all into Bitcoin and calculated that market cap and just did all this stuff, and it just sent Bitcoin through the absolute moon. And you know, but that also doesn't account for, you know, all of the other activity with futures and everything else. So it's like I am desperately wanting to learn I'm trying to find a system that works. I've done the Tom DeMark, you know, Tone Vase. I've had him on, and he loves the Tom DeMark indicator. And I bought some books, and I went through some of Tone's guides and things. I experiment with a lot of different stuff, man. And I've got a book on Elliott Wave. You know, I was watching a bunch of guys, and they were swearing by Elliott Wave, and I'm like, I don't really know if I agree with a lot of that. That's a
learning curve right there. I mean, even learning that is a lot of work in itself.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know. A lot of people say Elliott Wave works. Some people say it doesn't work. And even in cryptocurrency, I think a lot more people say it doesn't work.
Yeah.
It's better for stock. So I don't know. Don't know much about Elliott Wave.
Right.
Again, and I'm not really a professional trader. I mean, I just enjoy charting and trying to crack the code.
Right.
I look for new ways to use tools. And sometimes I'll use a tool and people be like, hey, you can't use it that way. That's not how it's meant to be used. But if I use it and it works for me, I'm going to use it that way. So, I mean, that's what I do. I find new ways to chart. And again, when I create these charts, I'm going to be recording myself doing it. So you said you want to know how to do it from scratch.
Right.
Well, on my website, that's where the premium content is. So that's where people can actually watch me from the beginning to the end, create these charts so they can learn my method, how to do it. Otherwise, my charts are shareable. You know, I actually give people access to my chart so they can save it as their own chart, break apart my work, change the time frame. You know, they click on, they play out live. So, you know, if they wanted to, they could, you know, access my charts and then just cancel their subscription. And then they have the chart as their own. You know, I give them the shareable chart so they can learn from what I do. But you know, I enjoy doing it. Like I said, it's therapeutic for me. I like doing this.
See, I paint miniatures. That's what's therapeutic for me. I play little nerd games.
We all have our things.
Right. Yeah. For me, charting is really stressful because you know, it's like you have a bunch of squiggly lines and then a bunch of little tools that you're trying to use to kind of chart the, you know, it's like being in the middle of the ocean and all you've got are the stars. It's like, okay, well, I've got this tool and that tool. How do I figure out what star is going to point me in the right direction? Right. So that's what's confusing for me and most people.
Well, I like a challenge. So the challenge for me is to find out how to make more accurate charts and try to predict price. And I can't really tell you. Sometimes I could tell you which way price might go based on how the chart's set up. But the main thing is just to give you a guide. So if price starts moving up, hey, you have a target to look to find resistance and potentially sell, or if it drops down, you have a target potentially buy. And I tell people use previous price action to go buy to determine what's going to happen later on. But so yeah, this was the peak of the bull run chart, and I had two. Let me put the other one in here because I went back and forth between two. The main reason I did this because I saw a lot of people putting out videos that were talking about this halving this coming up, and everybody, a lot of these people, these bullish channels are saying, well, as soon as we hit the halving, we're just going to start skyrocketing.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to be the case at all.
And that's what I was trying to show people is that that's not what happened in the previous halving, because we followed one trajectory, and then we went parabolic and we went up here.
So the thing that's concerning though, because I see a lot of people, they talk about, people say, oh, well, this is what happened in the past, so this is likely what's going to happen now. And my concern is, well, in the past, we didn't have futures, we didn't have regulation, we didn't have, institutional money, we didn't have any of this stuff that we've got going on now. And so for whatever reason, this is translating into kind of a downtrend heading into the next halving, which we haven't seen before. And so I don't know if that is it's like uncharted territory, no pun intended, right? Like looking at the halving, the previous halving, you've got a pretty solid uptrend happening for quite some time leading into that. But right now, we're not seeing that at all.
Well, I can say that I do know that there's a lot of people who have charts where they have this curve. And that makes sense that, each time, some people do percentages. They measure like from this peak to this peak. But we don't have too much to go on back here. This is a lot more. This is similar to this. But this back here, you can't really compare this to this.
Right.
But if you do compare these two, they're pretty close. If you go from the peak to where we bottomed, that was 87%. And if you go from this point to where, if we did put in our bottom, that's around 84%. So there are some similarities here, just the amount we came from the peak to where we bottomed. So even though this is, a completely different market, there's a lot of similarities. The only thing is that we had this second run up, which I was telling people that's not how bull runs work. A lot of people were thinking this was going to continue to keep going up higher and higher and higher.
I can't control it, but we have a similar here. So don't move the chart. If you go, to the left of the previous halving, down a little bit more, yeah, right there. So that is the closest thing that I see to where we're at right now. And so if we were to try and compare the previous halving to what's going on now, that is about where we're at in time frame. It's just we had this run up sooner, right? So we're talking a difference in a few months, it looks like, if I were comparing the two. And so now we're at a bit of a downtrend. I guess the question is the run up that we had that was sooner than the previous halving, is that like what? I guess I'm trying to figure out like what could that mean? Why is that happening? Is that the manipulation going on with all the
my answer is manipulation.
This
is a manipulation. This is to get people. Now, if you bought down here, you rode this up, you made a lot of profit.
Right.
But the thing is a lot of people bought up here. A lot of these moon boys with their channels were saying, when we were up here, there were certain people saying that, the next couple of days we were going to be up here, they said we're going to be up at probably 20,000 or 18,000. And, I was telling people, be careful. And actually, just doing, and that's the great thing about Fib channels and Fib circles is because it's Fibonacci. It uses those numbers. If you do a simple, a Fib retracement, and this is how I told people where the top was. You just come down to the bottom, you come from the peak, that told you that your top is right here. That was a 0.618, and that's where we topped out at.
Now 0.618 seems to be like kind of the end all be all when it comes to the peak of a market. Is that
Uh,
is there a specific reason for that? Is it just kind of where things end up, or is that what all the traders are looking for? And once we hit that, that's when they start taking action.
Everybody uses the same method of trading. They use these fib retracements, and it's kind of like a self-fulfilling prophecy. Everybody's looking for those targets. It hits that target. Oh, time to sell. Drops to the next target. Time to buy. And that, I think that's why it works. But when you use fib channels and fib circles, so fib channels allow you to use the same kind of method, but at an angle, so you can get price, time, and price. You know, not just horizontal lines. And then with fib circles, it gives you timing as well, and it allows you to, they're curved, so you can actually, a lot of times when you hit a ring, you can actually ride up the ring, and you stay in when you hit the ring, and as soon as you cross the ring, that's a point to sell because you're coming back down. So there's multiple ways you can use this to take advantage of it to actually make some profit. But again, that's just one way you could find the top. But the thing is, from back here, I thought that this was a suckers rally, because if or a bear rally, whatever you want to call it, and I was calling that we could come down as low as 2,500 or possibly lower, and anything is possible. But I do think from that peak of the bull run chart, I did point, at the bottom of that channel I made, I said it was potentially 5,000, 5,500, but that does not mean that we can't come down, because if I recreate that chart, there was a ring right there that we were finding support and resistance on. So we could drop down to that ring to put in another bottom. It'll be a little higher than our first bottom or second bottom, and then potentially start pushing back up. But I do think we have further to the downside to go before we start moving back up. And again, that's what I was trying to get across to people, was this isn't how bull runs start. People are saying that Bact was on the scene, and there's more fundamentals, and there's institutional money in, and people are buying into this thinking this is it. And these people bought here, didn't know how to do a stop loss. And some people just get on exchanges and just buy. They don't know what a stop loss is. They're like, oh, well, Bitcoin's going to the moon, time to buy in. And then, they check back, a little later, and all of a sudden they've lost half of what they put into it. And yeah, if you hold on to it, years from now, or, according to this chart that I created on that peak of the bull run, yeah, maybe by 2021, 2022, you'll make all your money back. But the hodl mentality, if you're topped out, you sell here, you buy your Bitcoin back, you got double the Bitcoin for half the price. So that's just what I'm trying to tell people, is just the market is unregulated. There is a lot of manipulation. One thing is if you go and you look at shorts versus longs, when longs are stacked, typically price goes down. The shorts are stacked, typically longs go up, because the exchanges will have to pay out on these longs with leverage. And if everybody, got paid out on their, their shorts or their longs, the exchanges go bankrupt. I mean, it's like everybody winning the lottery. It can't happen. So that's what I'm saying. It's unregulated. There's a lot of manipulation, and I'm just trying to tell people to be cautious. And I got a lot of crap for telling people that, right around here, that, it could potentially, hit this ring and capitulate. It kept pushing up, and they're saying, oh, well, so much for your capitulation theory. Prices kept going up. Well, I said, when we hit the ring, that's when we capitulate. But finally, people got the picture.
Well, and the truth is that, even during the parabolic run up, we still would have dips of like 40, 42% on a regular basis. So it's not like, it's not like a parabolic run up is just going to be a constant, steady stream up. We're going to have pullbacks in that time period.
Some people believe that it was going to continue to go up, though. Some people actually did believe that.
Right.
So.
Well, I mean, I think the reality is that there still really is no telling 100% in what exactly is going to happen.
I agree with that statement. Nobody knows 100%. It's just probability,
right?
And that's it. And I try to create charts to kind of map things out. And that's pretty much it.
So the thing is kind of like like Tone Vase. You watch him, and I've met him and talked to him and stuff. I mean, he's a decent enough dude. I mean, he's obviously a Bitcoin maximalist and all that, which to each their own. I believe in altcoins for a multitude of reasons. I don't believe in all of them. Obviously, there's a lot of garbage out there, but I believe ultimately the altcoin market is going to be what helps to further drive Bitcoin's price action once it reaches a certain height. But in the grand scheme of things, man, I look at this stuff and I think, there's so much more happening now than there was even 2 years ago. And everybody has their own flavor. Everybody has their own methodology to doing things. But it's still so difficult to make sense of any of it. So, I mean,
you mean in general where price is going to go? What's going to happen? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, it's like, because I've grown accustomed to the idea that if enough people are out there saying the price is gonna, so right now we're at 7,000, right? And I feel like if enough people are out there calling for a $5,000 dip, then everybody starts to believe it and they start to sell. Well, when that happens, the guys with the money, who I believe are the ones that are manipulating that spark of pullback to begin with, because they're just playing with people's emotions, right? And so I look at it like the market is so small that somebody with 500 Bitcoin can really move the market in one direction or another if they want. And so they're setting off on these trends, and they're controlling these trends to a certain degree. And I also am very well of the fact that there are private circles of Bitcoin whales who coordinate this kind of shit
with the exchanges
all the time. So they're basically saying, okay, here's our price point, here's our price action. Fred, you dump X amount. Bill, you dump X amount. Then we're going to start buying it back in as all these dumb retail investors start freaking out and selling into us. And we're going to accumulate another 400 Bitcoin apiece, gentlemen, all in 7 days. Let's get to work. And I feel like that's how this shit really works. So while we want to try and chart a lot of these things, we can't really guesstimate, we can't really pinpoint what these whales and these manipulators are focused on trying to accomplish with us.
Well, I can tell you that I do think that price is coming down a lot lower. But as you were saying with the manipulation, if price, people expect price to come down a lot lower. So what's going to happen is we're going to have a slow bleed down. It's going to come down. It'll stop at one point, start moving back up. People get bullish. Longs start to go up. They liquidate these shorts. And then once that happens, then they start moving it down further. So I think it's going to be kind of like this. You know, it's going to be a bleed down until the point where it starts slowly, you know, accumulating to start our bull run.
So in the video that I watched of you recently, you know, you broke down, okay, well, we're probably going to hit, you know, $5,000 by I think it was January, and then likely get up to like 18.5 by the halving. Now it sounds like you may have changed your tune on that, or you think that something's changed. What is that?
Well, let me show you the reason I think it's possible we could go lower. So when I did this, and I'm gonna do a little kind of fast, but so I came from the peak and I came down here, and hey kitty. So and I moved this up here to the peak, and I was trying to tell people there's some similarities here. And in the first this bear market back in 2014, we were finding resistance on this line. We broke above it. We found support. This was the halving. Price continued the same trajectory. Then we went parabolic. At this point, you can see we found resistance, and then we found support. I did notice that some people said, well, you know, why did you extend this up? You know, because this came from point to point. They said, well, why did you push this all the way out and make that the 0.618? Well, the reason I did that is because if you adjust these Fib channels, you can see when I did that, that gave us, you can see price fits within this channel. You can see we got rejected right at this channel. So that was the reason that I extended the 0.618 to right here. Not to mention, you know, when I did that previous one, the 0.618 was where this peak was. You know, and that would be peak was this the 0.618. But then you go and you take another one. And again, this is what's important is when you create these, you have to use a line. And then when you extend this out, you need to make sure you match up other lines. So I'm coming right to this line right here. And you can see by doing that, you get this, let me go down to the 4 hour here. You can see this gives you this channel that we were finding resistance, support, resistance, support, resistance. Now we're finding support on it. We didn't make it all the way down. So the more of these lines you have, it gives you more targets to work with. If you wanted to create a chart off of this, you could. Let me go back to the 1 day, but you can see right here, you can see that that target is, well, I'm a little off on this. Let me put this right on this line. You see that already gives you that target. This was that target when you take those when you create that fib circle and you connect this peak to this peak, you can see that's your target right here. So I created another I think I created another fib circle and then another fib channel, and came from here and pulled it out. But you'll notice when I pull it out, I match the lines up. So you see this green line and this blue line. When this green line matches this blue line, this gray line matches this line up here. So as long as you match these lines up, you know that these individual channels right here are going to play a role, and you can actually use these to map out price action. And, you know, I could go in and show you can map out price action just within these channels alone. But when I was showing that, and, you know, you said it looks messy. Well, you know, you can go in and you can turn off these rings inside so it's not so messy. Just turn off the ones you're not using. And then this, so, and you can see when you go from this point, let me turn on the center, that there, so we know where that is, that's from. So, and this potentially gave us our peak right up here. This was, can I move that around? I guess I can. So this gave us our target of, you know, roughly, this is 331,000. If I would have gone in detail and got it right on the peak, I think last time was like 316,000, something like that. But when you go from, you take another fib circle, and then you go from this point to this point, you can see that when you do that, and let me change the color of this. And I understand this is linear. It doesn't necessarily have to be linear. A lot of people say that this wouldn't work because it won't be a linear progression. But just seeing how well these fib circles match up, it's just, let me make this white here. So you can see that this right here, that goes from peak to peak. And you can see it comes down here. There's not much to work with right here, but you can see when you go from this point to this peak, price action matches this. And I'll be able to show you, I was talking about how it might go lower. But if you zoom in, you can see price is respecting this fib circle. We're caught in this channel. We broke below it. It was resistance, came up, found support, finally found support on this and moved up to start our accumulation phase for the bull run. So, and that's why I said, so if from this peak to this peak, and then from this peak to this peak gives you this. So then I figured, well, from this point to this point, or from our peak to this one, since this peak to this second ring, so I did another one from right here to right here. And you can see that it does the same thing for this bear market right here. And I'll change the color of this.
So basically what this is showing is that we're not even within the similar, we're actually above the channel already, and that maybe we're trying to find our way back down into it before we break back up. Is that what you're trying to say?
And this is what I was going to show you. So and this is, and I did another, I'll need to turn on all these rings. This is where it gets messy, but sometimes, you know, complicated price needs complicated charts. That's what I tell people. But so let me make this all the same color here, and we'll change this. And that does not need to be thick. So when I created this fib circle and I came from this peak up here down to this peak here, you can see price, and this is the crazy part, is price is actually respecting all of these rings. And while you might say, well, it's possible, you know, that how can this be linear? I don't know, but I just know that I couldn't have created this fib circle without using this, the way I charted this. And you can see how well price is respecting. Now, when I did this on the 1 day and took my time, this fib circle actually was right here where we found support. But I guess what I'm saying is you see how we came down, we found support on this ring, we dropped below, we're working with this yellow ring also. We came up here, we found support on this orange ring, we found support on this yellow ring. Again, I just created this ring going all the way to 2026, but price is respecting it. It came down, found resistance on it, it's coming back down. So your first major target, if we continue down, again, I should have done this on the 1 day and been more precise, but a rough estimate, your first drop target is around $5,800. But what I'm saying is you can see how price dropped below this orange ring, came down here to this yellow ring. So it's possible we could come down, find support on this, and then drop down here back to where this was previously resistance. We could come down and hit this point. And then there was another fib circle. Actually, if I had the other fib circles turned on for the other rings, there's a ring that comes up like this. So I think it's possible if we do drop lower, we could come down and potentially test this ring here. And the last one I created was around 3,500. I did this really fast, but this would take you down to potentially, if we drop to this ring, to potentially, around 3,000, 3,100. And then that other ring would potentially push us back up. So it doesn't mean we can't fall past it. You can see right here we fell past this channel. So it just depends on, if it starts tanking and people are panic selling, and people want to push the price down, they can. But just going by this chart alone, it's just amazing how well these fib circles work up. These work just going from peak to peak. So, it was just interesting what I found. And using these fib circles, just seeing how it matched over here and then matched over here.
Have you ever used this whole method on any traditional stocks to see if it's as accurate as it is in Bitcoin?
Oh, I got a treat for you.
Love treats.
All right, treat coming up. So yeah, I did I did it for Tesla. I did it for gold and palladium, and actually gave targets, and they hit my targets, my favorite word, to the tick. So hold on, let me load this up.
Interesting. And I asked because I was curious as to whether or not this kind of charting.
Yep, it works for everything.
Really? See, I was kind of hoping that it didn't. I was hoping that it didn't in the sense that maybe it's like a bunch of like high frequency powerhouse bot traders with insane volume that are kind of.
Well, there's a reason these tools are on TradingView. TradingView was around, it's not just for cryptocurrencies, fib circles, fib channels, pitchforks, it's for all stocks.
True.
But yeah, let me load up. So sorry, I have a lot of charts here. Might have to reference my website, otherwise, hold on, if I just go through this list. The only thing that sucks about TradingView is you can't, be nice if you could like have a folder and put individual charts in it. So this is a chart I created for, this was for Tesla.
Holy shit.
And there's a lot of gaps in here. This is what you're talking about, because this is a CBOE. But so I when I created this chart, actually I said that the target, if I don't said there's no published date because these are shareable charts. So if we continued up, your target was 379. If we continue down, your first target here will be 295. And then your target below that is 196. And you say, well, why is that? Well, if you look at this ring right here, if I can get my mouse on it. You can see this is the same fib circle right here. But you can see price is respecting this fib circle going way back. You can see it comes below. I can get rid of some of this stuff. Let me delete this. And it's respecting this fib circle. You can see it came right up, came down, and found support on it. But this isn't the impressive chart. I just wanted to show you that you can see prices respecting this fib circle. You were caught in this channel. You came up above it. You found support and resistance. You were stuck in this channel. You came up, came back down. You came up here. But basically, you stayed in this channel. And then when it moved back up, you can see that it found resistance on the top of this channel for this ring. And then came back down. And look where you found support, right here on this ring. You move back up, your next target would be up here, your next target down here and down here. So this gives you larger targets to the upside, downside. But let me show you what happened with gold and palladium, because those targets actually did hit. And you guys that are in the chat that had access to my charts and I published it, you can attest to this. You can verify that because I'm sure you've been watching them. But yeah, let me load this chart up. So I'm going to load gold. I was pretty impressed with this chart and the palladium chart. So this is palladium. so right here, when I created this chart at the time, price action was back over here. And I said that you had two targets. So if you continue up, your target is around 1,940, which would be this ring right here. And then if we drop down, your target was 1,678. And you can see as it came up, it was finding support on this red ring. It dropped down. Look where it hit, right at 1,678. I mean, right there, and then started moving back up. So if palladium continues up, your target is 1,940 because it's working between these rings. And if I zoom out, look how well price is respecting this yellow Fib circle. It's perfectly respecting these channels. So that's how you have potential targets to the upside and the downside. And then the Fib channels are your smaller targets because you can see it's also respecting each one of these. You see, you come down, you find perfect support on this one. You found resistance on this gray line. And then I'm sure if you went down to the smaller time frame, you can see how well it is interacting with each one of these Fib channels. The hard part is setting up the original Fib channel on the larger scale, because I set it up on a large scale. And then once you have that accurate, then you have these grids, and then you can go on these grids and set up smaller targets. And then when you have the larger one, all you do is just go, and I can show you this. I can go just from point to point, and I can create a Fib circle and you can look for certain things. So if price action right here, let's say I want to find out what's going on with price action in a certain area. So I create a Fib circle, just something random. I want to find out, let's see. And again, you have to go from point to point. So you see this run up right here. It looks kind of curved. So if I go to this point and then go to this point right here. And again, this is where it's a little trial and error trying to find out. But if I zoom in on this, you can see this gave you a pivot right here. Let me go down to the 3 hour. And that's the beauty of these Fib channels. You can see you're finding support. You're riding up this. It broke through. It was a pivot. So you can be rest assured that when you get to this Fib circle over here, something's going to happen. Now, again, look at all the points on this grid. So there's so many number of different ways you can place these Fib circles.
Well, that's the
so
point,
that's what
though.
I do.
Like,
But that's why I go through on the larger time frame where you have much larger grids. Find that. That's how I found this one right here on the larger time frame. But then you go in the smaller time frame and find this potential pivots when price is going to come down and potentially go back up. But yeah, that's what I teach in my tutorial section. That's where I go through and teach how I created from scratch and what I look for.
wow. Okay.
I know it looks crazy, and I have one with gold, and it did the same thing. I gave a target to the downside, target to the upside, and actually hit the target to the upside right to the tick, and it got rejected and came back down.
So this is more something to kind of get an understanding or an idea as to more long-term price action as opposed to like short-term scalping. Would you say that?
Well, not necessarily. You can see if we move up, obviously these rings will play a role too, but it's respecting the Fib channel. So if you move up, your next target above is 1,851. This will be your next resistance. As you can see, it was resistance back here. That's why I say look at previous price action. And the more times you hit one point, you know that that's going to be a lot of support and resistance. So if I do a trend line here, you can see that this line right here, going all the way back, you can see this line right here was resistance, support. You found resistance. You found resistance and support, and you found support. So later on, you know that this is going to play a role way out here. So if price is out here somewhere and you start coming down, you know this is the first point to catch a bounce. That's what I'm saying. Use previous price action to get an idea. So if we come down, your next support is going to be right here around $1,724. So actually, yeah, you can scalp trade. And then as I showed you on that previous chart, you create a grid. You create Fib channels within these smaller grids, and you can have smaller time frames down in the 5 minute for potential smaller targets for scalp trading. So again, it's setting up the chart from the beginning, and once it's set up correctly, everything else just kind of lays out.
I get it. Yeah, I get it. Wow, we've already been on an hour. That's crazy.
Well, it's been fun, man. I'm glad you let me show this stuff.
Yeah.
I know it seems crazy, but I do pay attention, and you can see this for yourself. I want you to pay attention to it. If you're in a trade, or if you're thinking about getting in a trade, pay attention, and you can see this play out for yourself. Watch what happens when we hit this ring, and then you can see if my rings work or not. But I'm telling you right now, this is a Bitstamp chart. We are finding resistance on this line right here. We were previously finding support. Now we're finding resistance. And it looks like this line right here, we are also finding resistance. So I don't know whether when we hit this ring, we're going to go up or down. I think because we're finding resistance here, I think it's more likely we go down. But I'm pretty sure, I have a lot of confidence in the fact that when we cross this ring, I expect something major to happen. So I'm going to be paying attention.
So we're supposed to cross that ring tomorrow on a 30 minute. Is that what you're saying?
No, in 6 hours and 30 minutes.
Oh, so by tonight, so by 9:30 Eastern, we're gonna know if we're about to take a huge shit or if we're about to just get a nice pump up. That's basically?
I'm going to be ready to click buy, or I'm going to be ready to reference my different charts and find out, because that's how I make my money. I don't do leverage trading. I wait till we have a drop, buy down at support, ride it back up, sell at the top. That's how I make my money trading. I don't do leverage trading. I'm in the US. I don't do that VPN stuff. Plus, it's manipulated. You'll go and you'll put in a trade and you get this damn wick that goes up, 400, and then you get one that goes down 400, and then
my sentiments exactly. So, I tell everybody to stay away from that stuff.
But yeah, I appreciate letting me be on and showing what I do. I enjoy doing it, and if you watch some of these play out and you watch these rings, I do live streams with the rings. And
well, I will tell you, dude, if I would have went through all of this and then I would have saw that you're basically pumping ByBit or something like every other dude out there trying to profit off everybody else's ignorance, I wouldn't have had you on. And the fact that you're not. Every day
I get emails from ByBit, different exchanges, and affiliate links, and I just ignore it. Actually, I tried to goad them into it, and they said, ByBit said, "Oh, we want you to we don't just say how great we are and how much money they can make. Tell them the truth about our service." And so I respect the fact they said that. But yeah, they were telling me that they pay me so much money on the affiliate links.
Right.
So basically, when people lose money, the exchange makes money, I get a commission.
Exactly.
And plus they pay me to be their sponsor and do ads. So yeah, I'm not going to promote anything that's going to cost people that should not do any leverage trading, period. They don't know how to trade in the first place.
Right. Thank you.
If experienced, yeah, maybe take a chance, but some people do not need to be into that. They're going to do one trade correctly, and then they're going to feel confident about it, use higher leverage, and they're going to lose everything.
Exactly. Dude, this is beautiful. I'm so glad you feel this way, because it's what I've been saying for a while now, and it's really difficult to find people in the crypto space with like a serious amount of integrity and aren't willing to just sell their viewers out to try and make a quick buck. It actually has created like this kind of sick feeling in my stomach when I see YouTubers that I used to think were pretty cool doing a good thing, and then I just see them constantly sending their freaking viewers over a cliff, and it's like, man, I really hope that these guys learn. I really do. So and when you're putting you could very easily be making a killing doing these charts.
I've turned down some stuff.
I'm sure you have.
Yeah.
And I respect that, man. That's why you're here. And that's why, when people say, "Oh, well, you're selling your charts," it's like, yeah, it's a hell of a lot better. He doesn't have to sell anything. He could just point you to the place to lose all your money and profit off of your loss. But
that's exactly what they're doing right now.
Exactly.
Because there's the best commission, on these affiliate links. So, and they're giving away $100 that you have to use for leverage trading. How can they pay me? They were offering me $200 for an affiliate link, plus going to give like $60 or $80 to them to add onto their trade.
Right.
Why are they doing that? Because they're making a killing off these people losing money on leverage trading. That's exactly right.
Right.
And if they're making a killing, you need to stay away from it.
Right.
So, but yeah, you and I are on the same page there, man.
Good deal.
Totally.
All right, man. Well, look, anytime you want to come on and show some new stuff, just let me know. I'm more than happy to have you. I love what you do.
Awesome, I
and,
appreciate that.
I'm definitely going to be checking out more of your videos, and I'll at some point I plan to check out your private stuff too, just because I would love to be able to go through and on my own. And I'm always looking to learn new ways of doing things, and at some point I'll settle on something that's not the 13/34 EMA crossover. So
right. Right. Well, I look for different ways out of the box, and it's fun. Like I said, trying to find new ways to find things, and it seems to be working, and people like it. The only thing is, I do have a day job, and I'm trying to find time to actually do these charts. And now it's the holidays, so now I can actually get these charts made. And like I said, it's therapeutic. I enjoy it, so that's the plan. During the holidays, I finally got a reprieve from work, so
amen, brother.
Fun time for me.
Well, I'm gonna be watching, and I'm gonna see what happens
I'll
by
be
about
watching your
9:30
videos
tonight.
Too.
We're gonna get a big move. We're gonna get a big move up or down.
I'm going to give you that time. So everybody, whatever time it is for you right now, in 7 hours at current price action, we're going to make contact with this ring. And keep in mind, we could approach this ring and continue to move down. That would become support. You could ride up it. If you move up, it will become resistance and push price down. It's after we cross it to find out what happens. And keep in mind, that could be, almost instantly. It could be an hour, it could be a few hours. And I showed you that previous chart. As soon as you cross it, doesn't mean it's going to be immediately, but something is going to happen when we cross this ring. So guys, just be prepared and be ready. But when we do make contact with the ring, that is in about 7 hours or so.
Lord of the Rings.
So yeah, guys.
Here we go.
That's what they call me.
All right.
But man, it's been awesome. Thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely. Steve, thank you very much. OpticalArtDotCom. That's a new URL.
Yeah, that's my website.
Yeah, so check it out. Look him up on YouTube. I will, of course, be following him and letting people know some of the things he's got going on. And look, guys, until next time, crow your coins. Thanks for joining us, and I'll see you again soon. Make sure you give us a like, a subscribe, hit the bell, leave some comments. Do you think this guy's crazy, or you think he's on to something special? Let us know in the comments, and we'll see you.
Crazy like a fox.
See you guys.